welcome back to Lantern Corp Videos. Today's Lantern Corp video comes to us from Joseph McDuffel, and JRC, who asked the question, what Lantern Corp do I think Kenshin Himura from Rurouni Kenshin belongs in? Now, I never actually read the manga, although I do know some of the story elements that continue past, the standard anime we see in the show. And I didn't watch the Samurai X movies, which I know are technically the origin stories for Kenshin Himura as, Battosai the Manslayer. But no, I grew up watching Rurouni Kenshin on Toonami. I loved Rurouni Kenshin, man. That was like one of the legit anime imports, I guess you could say, that we got. I'm like, this is awesome. And Kenshin's a very diverse character. I think there's at least 5 major cores that he could be a legitimate contender for. There's probably arguments for some of the other ones, but let's just get into it right now. One of the cores he just does not fit into right off the bat is avarice. This is due to the fact that while Kenshin does occasionally seek like greater power, like greater skill or whatever, there's no greed behind there. It is for a purpose to protect and preserve everything along those lines. So there's really no greed into Kenshin's personality. And going by that and, kind of springboarding from that, White Lantern surprisingly doesn't work. And this is due to the fact not because Kenshin isn't a protector of life. By the time we get to Rurouni Kenshin, he certainly is. It's because he's bathed in the blood of so many people. Like, Kenshin is a manslayer. Kenshin is a murderer. He is literally just bathed in the blood of God knows how many over his course of war. Now, while he has changed a new leaf because of that, I think that will always be a part of him. And we see it whenever the battle gets serious. He gains those Battosai features. The old manslayer kind of comes back out. But I don't see that as a really good core for him, only because he's been so drenched in blood and battlefield and war and carnage. And he's taken so many lives before. So, unfortunately, I don't think life can really work in this case. One of the key ones that is always an obvious one to go off when talking about protagonists is Green. But Kenshin's definitely a better candidate for Green than some of the other ones, because Green's main actual qualifier is you need to be able to overcome great fear. You also need to have great willpower, certainly, but the real key component for qualifying is overcoming great fear. And Kenshin's had to do that in spades his entire life. When we see his origin, his entire origin was bathed in nothing but blood and fear, and he had to grow and train and be raised to be kind of the man he was. So, I mean, Green is kind of an obvious one for me. Another obvious one is fear. People are scared shitless of the Battosai. Like, Kenshin's name carries cachet. Just hearing the name and, seeing what he can do, he scares the piss out of even seasoned fighters. Even like some, what was the name? It's been so long since I've actually rewatched the series. I'd love to rewatch the series, honestly. But what was the name? It was early on. He was another manslayer from the Revolution. He had this ability to basically paralyze someone with his spirit. Basically, he even scared that guy. And that guy was pretty much psychotic. Even someone who couldn't feel emotions, like, the kid who worked for, can I remember anyone's name here? I can't remember. I remember the guy who voiced Piccolo voiced him, though. Steve Blum? Was that the guy? Did Steve Blum voice him? Anyway, Shishio. I think it was Shishio. Makoto Shishio, was that the name of him? I think that was the name of him. Yeah, his subordinate, who allegedly couldn't really feel any real emotion, eventually became scared of Kenshin. Eventually. So, fear is an obvious candidate, I think. Now, one that I don't think he actually qualifies for, and hear me out on this one, is rage. Like, we know that Kenshin, at least during his Battosai days, probably carried a lot of anger with him. And back in those days, he very well could have been a Lantern of Rage. He also could have made a much better Fear Lantern back then. He still would be a good candidate now. It's just, technically, I think by the end of the series, spoilers if you haven't read it, like the manga, I think he's dead by the end of the series. But At least by one of the versions of the series. I think he dies of leprosy or something like that. But he's a lot more qualified to be a Red Lantern in the early days of his career, especially during his time as Battosai. But as we're talking about Rurouni Kenshin Himura, that Kenshin, like, there might still be some anger in there. But I think it's more like if I used Lantern Corps, the Ultraviolet Corps, of what I believe is shame. And again, I don't think that's ever legitimately stated or confirmed. That's why I don't use the Ultraviolets in these. But because of that, it's more like regret, shame, ugly, like an ugliness in him. Like, he hates the fact that he did those things back in the day. But I don't really think that qualifies as rape. When he was dealing with, Saito? Was that his name? Saito, the guy he fought, who was now the policeman. I think it was Saito. Anyway, when he fought him, yeah, there was clearly some Gine. I'm just remembering all the names of these guys. I think it was either Gine or Gine, who was the psychotic manslayer. But when he was fighting them, his old enemy from the Revolution, yeah, some of that anger came back, but it was mostly in check and is more just his manslayer way coming through. So yeah, I don't think he, at this point, as the series went on, he could be a Red Lantern. A Lantern of Compassion, though. Kenshin is a very compassionate guy. There's a reason he goes out of his way to help people, but help people either with his sword or without. It's because, ultimately Kenshin was a good man who just became, a murderer, and now he's atoning for that. And it's because of that compassion and humanity that he does what he does. He smiles, he has fun, he does the best he can every day, day to day, and, he tries to help where he can. It's this compassion for his fellow man, which is why he ultimately turned to good, or turned a new leaf, instead of staying the Battosai. So honestly, I say compassion's a solid argument as well. Now, we've got two more to go over, but I want to just talk about love, sapphires, real quick. Kenshin was married. We do learn this, that Kenshin was in fact married. And, he loved her, obviously, but then she ended up being killed. The question would be, is what Kenshin does out of love for anyone? I probably would be going so far as to say no. That's not to say he doesn't love. We know he eventually, again, manga, did marry Kaoru, so he did eventually marry. They did eventually get married, so obviously he clearly loves her. But is what he does ultimately, is that was driving motivation, or is there other things beyond that? For me, it's probably other things beyond that. But I could see the argument for Sapphire, to be fair. The last two, hope. Kenshin, once he got there, once he started doing his thing, the man embodied hope into everyone around him. Sanosuke, Kaoru, Yaiko. Oh God, I don't remember the healer, the doctor. I don't remember her name, but her. Hell, the government was looking to recruit him because they felt the hope rested on him. Kenshin, surprisingly, was a beacon of hope in the series, despite his manslayer ways. And I feel like Hope is actually a decent candidate for him. But the last one is, like I said, the Black Lanterns. Kenshin is drenched in blood and death and battle. This man has killed a lot of people, and at the time, he might have even enjoyed it. Now he regrets it. But I think you can't talk about someone like Kenshin without at least bringing up the Black Lantern Corps. Now, of the big five here we have, Black, I think, is the least likely. And this is due to the fact that, A, Kenshin has not died, nor is he dead. Well, by the end of the series, he's dead, so obviously he'd be a Black Lantern, but no. And if you're talking about just like Rurouni Kenshin, which is what we're looking at here, he wouldn't be a Black Lantern. While he has killed a lot, the other four, I think, just stand out much stronger. So that leaves us with will, compassion, fear, and hope. Of the remaining four, this is where it gets tricky. I will say all these have a likelihood of attaching himself onto Kenshin. But if all four were to come into Kenshin at once, try to fight for him, which one gets out on top? I am probably going to have to index Hope there at the number 4 spot. And this is due to the fact that while he's instilled hope in a lot of people, even the people who, go to, like, from the government who try to, like, recruit him, it is a finite group of people. It's not like the whole world has hope in Kenshin or the whole country has hope in Kenshin. It is a certain amount of people. Not to say he still doesn't inspire hope or that he doesn't keep the faith that he can, try and, do good every day. But even he's almost gone back to manslayer ways on multiple occasions. Almost. So I'd put the hope at number 4. I would then say, surprisingly, his compassion, I think, actually outweighs the Green Lantern Corps. While he's had to overcome great fear in his childhood before, he spent the most of his adult life not being afraid. And sure, he's got immense willpower, absolutely, but because of that, because he later came to regret what he did, I think that's a slight weakening in his will. At the same time, you can make an argument that's his will finally overcoming his manslayer urges. But I think it's because of that, his compassion for his fellow man, realizing all the wrong he did, outweighs, surprisingly, willpower in this. And and that being said, though, you can make the argument that he now, uses using his own willpower and faith, hope as well, goes day to day, trying not to go back to his manslayer ways, but protecting anyone he can with this reverse blade sword he's got. But I think I would actually take compassion slightly over will. But that leaves us with the last one, and I think Kenshin is the strongest candidate for the Lantern Corps Ring of Fear, because anyone who knows the name, because he was so feared, he earned a name that thousands, if not millions, of people learned and knew and feared. Battosai, the Manslayer. And when people found out about him, and people saw what he did, he scared the crap out of people, even as just Kenshin Himura, not the Battosai. And every once in a while, you would get those people who were a lot more gutsy and be like, I'm going to test the Battosai! And down, that's all she wrote. So, yeah, I feel like Kenshin, weirdly enough, is the best candidate for fear in this case, and that's because of his reputation long before he really was just Kenshin Himura again. Now, do I think any one of these are less likely? Sure, but not by a strong margin. Like I said, I think Compassion's actually a good secondary option, surprisingly given his character. Will is probably the third option, and Hope is a strong option too. Like, all 4 of those are like actual really strong possibilities, and really you could interchange them. It's whatever ring is nearby at the time, really. But if all 4 of them were coming at him, I think Fear might be the best candidate. But then it would probably be a toss up between Compassion or Will, honestly, and then Hope rounding out the corner. Because he's lost his faith a couple times. He's lost hope. And, it's hard to stay a Lantern Corps member of Hope, a Blue Lantern, when your faith wavers. Because that's what hope is. It's faith. So, ultimately, and finally, Black rounds out the top 5. Black, you got to at least put in the discussion. I don't think Black is the strongest candidate, but of the 5, there's still an option there. Anyway, though, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. What Lantern Corps do you think he belongs in? Do you agree with any of the 5 I mentioned, or do you think any of the other 4 would be optional? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. And I'll see you folks tomorrow. Oh, my voice is cracked here. I'm going through puberty again. Oh, God. Tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow for What If.